depending on how this plays out, I may not be able to communicate with my wife or my kids as I always have. Like the consequences of what could happen were pretty heavy on me. And it was just a general sadness of, moments of like, when did I last lose patience with each one of my kids? I prayed for each one of my kids and my wife in that moment.
Welcome to the Hey Brother podcast, where Catholic men share about real struggles. I'm Nick Clooney, your host, a CatholicPsych mentor and the founder of Crafted for More, a mentorship practice dedicated to helping men live more radically free lives. Each week, I sit down with a man to hear his story about how brotherhood has shaped him, the struggles he's facing, and where he wants to grow. In addition to our weekly interviews, I share conversations with my brother Mitch. Subscribe and follow so we can walk this journey together. We want your help to build a stronger, authentic Catholic brotherhood. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hey Brother podcast. Today I'm joined by fellow CatholicPsych mentor and partner Sam Todzia. Sam, it's great to have you here and great to be able to share the CatholicPsych world and adventure with you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks, Nick. I'm actually really happy to be on with you. It's an honor to be invited. So thank you for that.
Yeah, what's your day been like so far?
I hate to say it, but the word is busy. I feel like sometimes we get too busy, and I'm in one of those days. It's been one thing to the next. But honestly, I've been looking forward to this part of it. This is actually where I get to just hang out with a buddy. So I've been looking forward to this hour of the day that's been set aside.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It is nice. It's really easy for us to jump in and start going on the to-do list, and then something shows up that wasn't expected, and everything's set off. But having those built-in moments where you can just chat with somebody it's always a treasure. So. So a little bit with the Hey Brother podcast, something that I love to do is get to know men and their stories. And we were talking about this before, but there was something recently that happened that you're like, I could talk about this a little bit, but one of the questions that I like to ask guys is like, what's one moment, one area of life where, faith's become real, where, the Lord's kind of either subtly or very not subtly made himself present to you in your life.
Yeah, so I guess it'd be about 2.5 weeks ago, experienced something new. My wife and I, we have you could almost call it like a ministry. After Mass every Sunday, we kind of invite all of the families at the church to come to our house. We live pretty close to the church, for donuts. And this particular week, I think there was probably maybe 8 families that said yes. We probably had 50 kids running around. And it was a nice day, and we just spent some good quality time, just kind of in this really great community of people. And I just didn't feel very good. And I'd actually come off of a flight the night before. The flight got delayed 7 hours, and we ended up coming in the middle of the night and, didn't have a very good night's sleep. Woke up for Mass, got the family ready. But as I sat down with everybody, I just really couldn't shake this. I just thought I was really tired. And about an hour later, after people had mostly filed out, and I wasn't able to shake it. All of a sudden, I was trying to speak to my wife, and I couldn't get words out. I started just speaking gibberish, and I could understand that I was speaking gibberish. I could hear it. And I was like, that's not what I meant to say. So I'd try again. And then I really would concentrate, and I could maybe get the first word, and the rest of it would just blah, 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 gibberish words. And I actually went to the hospital. Turned out I was having a stroke, which is
that's
crazy. It's crazy to think about. But about 10-minute drive to the hospital. Throughout that entire time, I was a little bit foggy in my mind in the way that I was thinking. Like I was trying to speak to my wife, which probably wasn't helpful because every time I failed, she got more nervous about my health. But I was really trying to focus, and like I said, I might get one word, maybe a second word, but then I just couldn't articulate words, and it's very concerning, very frustrating. And then we got to the hospital, and it was like in the movies, that they said it's a possible stroke, so things have to move quickly. And so they, next thing you know, there's 5 people around me putting IVs in and doing all this different stuff. And I had a CAT scan real quick, and they confirmed that I was actually, having a stroke. Um, it it corrected itself very quickly.
So on the way to the hospital, sorry to jump
No, of
in, but
course.
I'm just curious. Like, were you like, so you were like experiencing a little brain fog, but like were you like nervous? Were you like what was
Uh,
your kind of demeanor in
I
that?
think the big part of my experience on the way to the hospital was it was probably twofold. It was a little bit of like, I don't think this is happening, and I don't really want it to happen. I don't want to
Okay.
inconvenience everyone, just sort of like the like if I could just, pretend this wasn't happening, that would be better, and then it was, but it is happening, and so much concern for my wife, really. In that moment, I
Interesting.
wished I could make her feel better, and so I actually tried
Yeah.
multiple times to say like it's going to be okay, or like you know I'm still here even though I can't speak to you clearly,
Yeah.
and I couldn't actually communicate that, and it just made me like a little frustrated, really sad, and I just wanted to comfort her, you know.
Yeah. That's a weird experience.
Yeah.
like, like you're I don't know. It's just so strange where you're first you're like trying to detach yourself from it. It's like this isn't happening. Like I don't I don't want this to happen. But then to hear like I don't know. That's like such a like if somebody like you lost a finger in your way to the hospital
Right.
or something like that. Like you could be reassuring in that moment. It's like everything. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be like there's like we just gotta get this thing reattached, but not to be like in a place where you're not even able to offer like words that would normally be at least somewhat
Right.
consoling, right? That's frustrating
Yeah.
to say the least. Or like what do you do? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I held her hand,
And
um,
you, yeah,
and yeah, but she was in a little bit of a, just focus, get to the hospital, some panic behind it.
yeah,
And I mean, she really rallied, to the occasion. I know she can get very nervous, and she became nervous, through the whole thing. She was nervous, but she rose to the occasion for actually getting to the hospital, engaging with the people to talk about what happened, and then, once we're after the CAT scan, and in the room, and we're like kind of like, okay, we're where we're supposed to be, I could see that, like, okay, now it's really coming over her, like the reality of,
sure,
this situation, because they're like, yeah, you had a stroke. And then we were at a local hospital, and and this doctor comes in the ER, and this doctor says, we're going to transfer you to a bigger hospital about a half hour away. And he says to me, with my wife right there, when you arrive, you're having brain surgery. And he said, it's not if or whether you're having brain surgery. They're going to do some more tests to find out which one, which approach to brain surgery.
wow,
And that got very real, because I was already starting to feel a little better and be able to speak a little clearer at that point. But it was like, okay, they're going to be like going into my head shortly, and they would only do that if it was very serious. And so, I was starting to feel a little better, feeling more at peace, and able to talk to my wife. For them to say that, like, oh, that like bumped it up again. And
yeah,
at that point, they got the transport set up real quick, and and at that point, my wife said, I'm going to go home and get some stuff, and I'll meet you at the hospital. And so she was driving the other direction as I drove. She drove south as I drove north. And she later told me that, she pulled out and then had to wait because the ambulance that I was in, with the lights and siren going, pulled out in front of her, and took off the other way. She said it was like a really heartbreaking, difficult moment. Um,
yeah,
she's just really worried that, it could, with a stroke, it's kind of like you don't see it, you don't really know what's going on, but it can
mm-hmm.
really alter a person's situation. So
Everything, yeah,
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 yeah.
absolutely. Wow, that's wild. Well, what was the rest of the story? You got to the hospital and
Yeah,
they're like we're fine. We don't need to do brain surgery. You
yeah.
can
Well,
go
it's
home
funny.
or like
I was getting progressively better. For about an hour, things were
okay,
not clear. Things were I couldn't speak clearly. And then I was just getting better and better. By the time I was in the ambulance, I had a full conversation with the guy in the back with me, the EMT. Um, didn't
Okay.
stutter, or anything like that. But that ride was that would be probably the most powerful part of the whole experience, because in that ride, I just basically had a half hour to sit and reflect on what was happening and like what's important in life. That's what really just came
Yep.
to me. So again, I was clear headed, so I was able to spend time in prayer, and that's probably the most, if you'd call it like intense, I don't know, the most intimate prayer I'd had in a long time. It was very real, you know,
Yeah.
and it was, you know, I didn't actually have any fear, and I'm not trying to say that to be really courageous or anything. It actually kind of surprised me, to be honest. But I wasn't very scared. I figured that if I'm going to be in this position, if I'm going to be having a stroke, then I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm going from one hospital that was taking care of me to a hospital that's going to take care of me better, right? So I
Yep.
felt good about like that piece of it, but I also felt a real, just a general sense of peace. Um, and then yeah, feeling like a real connection with God and the prayer. Um, there was a sadness about it though. There was just a sadness that like things could change. I may not be able to, um, depending on how this plays out, I may not be able to communicate with my wife or my kids as I always have. Like the consequences of
Yeah.
what could happen were pretty heavy on me. And yeah, it was just a general sadness of, moments of like, when did I last lose patience with each one of my kids? I prayed for each one of my kids and my wife in that moment. And I couldn't help but think of those times where like, I lost patience with them, and you know, maybe I was too harsh, or, then I'm sitting there and I'm like, should I not have done that? And then I'm like, no, they probably deserved it. Like it was probably merited. But in that moment, it just felt like, like there were bigger things, that I shouldn't get so caught up in the little stuff and get upset.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a powerful moment. By the time we got to Hartford Hospital, uh, another CAT scan confirmed what they found earlier, but also found that, you know that everything was actually operating as it's supposed to. That just there was evidence of the stroke. This little dot that to them tells a big story that to me doesn't mean anything. But and then I had an MRI, which is a much more you know specific way for them to measure things and see things. And after that, I mean, for the most part, they were like, "You look healthy. All of the factors that lead to strokes are not concerning." So they sort of began to just settle down with everything. And over the course of 3 days, 3.5 days in the hospital, they did a ton of tests, and ultimately were like, "Yeah, we think you're okay. Everything's all right." There's a couple of spots in my brain where the blood vessels constrict a little bit more than they'd like, and that's probably, that's the risk factor, but
Okay.
it's very manageable. Right now, I'm on a couple of meds, and they said I probably won't even have to be on them for more than a month. More
Oh
testing, that kind
wow.
of stuff. So yeah, just sort of
Man.
a moment to sort of just shake your life a little bit, give a little perspective, and yeah, and
Yeah.
then give my wife some panic.
Yeah. I'd say it's like a vigorous shake. It's like a like I'm I'm gonna get your attention. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it in a really, I don't know if dramatic's the right word, but that's wild. Like that half an hour trip from hospital to hospital. Like a lot of people like talk about like that moment that like flashes before their eyes if they have like a near death experience
Hmm.
or something to that effect. This is like an elongated moment where it's just
Right.
like I like going into the unknown. I have no idea what's about to happen. And I remember like even listening to Pints with Aquinas episode. I don't know if you do listen to Pints with Aquinas like Matt
Hmm.
Frad show
Yeah.
or anything like that. He had an experience like that right when COVID was happening, and similar to what you're saying, like where he's like, I'm just thinking about my wife, my kids, and he's like the times that I've been like there for them, the times I've been like a terrible father, and like just like cycling through it, and it's interesting, like because it's like when something like that happens, it's like I can't say I'm like trying to think. I don't think I've ever had like a near death experience or like that like moment,
Yeah.
like a health scare where
Praise God
like all
for
of a
that,
sudden
right?
like yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, and hopefully listening to your story helps me, gain something where I'm like, maybe I don't need to go through that. But I'm sure at some point, like I will. Like we're all human. We're all gonna experience something that's we're gonna taste like an experience of death to some degree
Yeah.
um, in our lives, and it's just wild how like it goes. Your mind goes straight from like nothing else matters. It's like the family, the
Hmm.
kids,
Hmm.
like the things that are most important work their way to the front of your mind. And it's like wild to me as men because we're so good at compartmentalizing,
Yeah.
like how often it's like not the case that we're thinking about those most important things. How we can like do, you know, does it take a health scare? Does it take a life threatening situation for us to think about that? I mean, for some people, no, but unfortunately, a lot of guys listening to this right now, it might be the case where you it takes that or it takes hearing about
Yeah.
one to actually like pause and actually like okay, like what are these important things that we're looking at in life. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great to hear. Like I knew you were going through medical stuff, and I'm like I didn't know where you were at with that. It's great to hear that it's manageable, and you're able to like monitor it with medication, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be a long term thing. So that's good to hear. Just to know that like there isn't permanent effects or anything like that. But steering the conversation a little bit into more your story, what are some things that are like rising to the top of your head, to your heart right now that you're passionate about that, um, yeah, you feel like the Lord's calling you to right now?
Good question. Um, well, I think something that we share, and actually what's great is to be on this podcast, is really a heart for men's ministry and building up men, all through a lens
Yeah.
of faith, but really just kind of get people to, yeah, kind of engage with, like you're talking about here, what's important in life, with our relationship with the Lord, our relationship with our spouse for married men, and taking our fatherhood seriously and intentionally. That's been something I've been involved in men's ministry for probably close to 15 years now, and I've always looked for ways to
Yep.
make it a bigger part of my life. And so yeah, so now going through the certification with Catholic Psych, doing mentorship daily, and finding that it's very rewarding to have the chance to walk with guys on a daily basis, and to look at life with them, and be able to support them. And that's been that's been awesome.
What about daily? What about daily makes a difference there? Because it's like I don't know, as men, I know like men out there who are like I could jump in and like get a business coach or like somebody like a spiritual director that I meet with every 4 to 6 weeks
Yeah,
or 2 months.
yeah,
But daily makes a difference.
yeah. I think that daily is where it becomes real. It's not that you can't have a powerful encounter with somebody if you're meeting with a spiritual director monthly. The Lord is present there. The Lord can transformation is possible, absolutely. But there's something about getting to know someone at a more intimate level, and actually, walking with them, and being like something about like, okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Like that's
Yeah.
who do we get to do that with? Family, immediate family, and maybe coworkers, and that's a completely different context. Coworkers, right? Um, but to intentionally have a relationship that is ongoing in that way, I think can begin to open doors into trust in a more meaningful way. That can go a little bit deeper. And yeah, I just think the model that we use, with Catholic Psych, that really the daily piece of it is fundamental.
Yep.
Even sometimes having a client that
Absolutely.
only checks in once or twice a week, it really does hold back the work that could be getting accomplished over time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, it's like almost like as a man when I hear the daily thing. And it feels almost intimidating because it's
Hmm.
like already like relationship with somebody to help me with my life problems. Like that's like no thank you. Like I'm a man, I can solve this by myself. Like, and we're really good at isolating
Yep.
away from like getting help, especially when we need it. Um, and so like when the idea of daily gets thrown in there, that can to me like I think about that. Think about when we first started with Catholic Psych, and that was like a part of it that felt a little
Hmm.
intense. And I remember like because like when we're training through this, or we're receiving the modality ourselves, and I remember working with my training director, and I was definitely in the like I don't like if I skip a day like that's fine like we'll space it out. And
Yeah.
but she was very much like nope, we're gonna dive in daily and I want you to be here like every day as much as you can. um, and I've experienced it. It's one of those things where it's like I can see the change that happens on the daily
Hmm.
front. But for men who are listening, is there anything you would say to that like hesitancy, like of the masculine heart, to be like that sounds like maybe that's good for some men, like, but for me like that sounds a little bit much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is. I think that's a fair point, that it can be a little intimidating, and maybe even like a defense pops up, and a guy's like, that's not something I want to get involved in. That sounds like one more thing, one more hassle. I have to manage one more relationship, and that's just seeing it in the wrong spirit. This is the whole idea of what we're trying to provide is a support. The resource is for your good versus one more thing, you know.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about this model in particular is, and I feel like this really fits for men, is that like we started this conversation, was we're busy. Where do we have time to fit something like this in? I have a client where most of his calls come in the night, deep into the night, because that's where he finds the time and the peace, um, to actually continue to have this conversation. And so there's a flexibility that comes with it. So you think daily, oh my gosh, how am I going to fit that in? But actually, it's while you're driving your truck. It's while you're going for a walk. I got another guy who takes his dog for a walk every night. That's when he does his messages. And it's like, actually takes this thing that you were going to do anyway and turns it into an avenue for growth, healing, transformation. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, it's great because it's like a lot of times we know we want to grow as men, but we don't know exactly what that looks
Mhm.
like. And like to your point, it's hard to carve out that space, but to be able to like go and like free associate, talk on the phone for a little bit with somebody who does have eyes to see, be
Right.
like, well, like let's look at that. Like, there's actually something maybe a little deeper going on there is huge. And I think even to the point of like why the who do we experience relationship most a lot of times as men, because we do live busy lives, is our work friends. And
Yeah.
like and that's where our deepest intimacy lies a lot of times, is like those guys we go in and see at the office every day, or go in to the work site every day, and like we see them and there's real relationship there. And like why is that? It's because like you spend like every day with that person. And so like there's real camaraderie, there's real relationship. And that's like, and maybe even one of the things that I've found myself personally like off-putting about therapy and stuff like in that field is like, but that's not real. Like I like this relationship that I have like with the therapist, it's
Right.
me going in and like I tell you my problems, you tell me how to fix them, thank you very much, and I'm out the door. Where like mentorship is such a model that it's like, no, I just want to be your brother,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and like help you be a better man for your wife, your kids, like that's, and like it's an authentic care for the other guy. So tell me about man camp, not man camp, that's a different event. What is it called?
We call it,
um,
it's like an epic barbecue. And so we call it meet and greet, but we spell it MEAT. Yeah. Meet and greet.
okay.
And yeah, we've been doing this for, it'll be 15 years this coming year. My brother and some other friends, we basically wished that someone else was putting on this type of event, and nobody was. And so we said, all right, I guess we have to do it. But it's turned into something pretty awesome. We only do it once a year now, just because of we all have big families and everything now. But
Yeah.
but it's just a
Were you guys doing it multiple times a year
we
for work,
were
or
we
was it?
were previously before we all had, I have 7 kids now. It's like you can't fit these
Yeah.
things in. Um, but it's turned into a pretty big thing. I think the last one had well over 200 guys at it, and it's just
Well,
um, an evening event for men that's rooted in fellowship. But we also just give guys an opportunity to feast. We cook an outrageous amount of meat to the point where it's almost
yeah.
like a little comical. But everybody gets to try. Somebody will bring something really interesting. They'll be like crocodile or like
Yeah.
kangaroo or something like that they and then everybody gets a chance to try it. There's always a lot of like venison. Somebody got a deer recently and they bring that. Um, and then yeah, just basically we provide an atmosphere of fellowship. And we tie into it sort of fun and outlandish competitions and activities. So we're shooting potato cannons, and we have this other kind of wild cannon. It's an air cannon that shoots 2x4s, and it's actually kind of hard to explain. It probably doesn't translate very
Yeah.
well to podcast, but it's startlingly
It's
amazing.
spectacle.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And so we shoot these things
Yeah.
at goofy targets, and yeah, we just let boys be boys in a way. Like we
Yeah.
provide this space where they can just really laugh and enjoy each other's company. That like time is set aside for this. And it's really kind of beautiful. And then we bring in a speaker, like kind of like any old good men's event. We bring in at least one good speaker. This past year, it was a good friend of ours who's an incredible priest. His name's Father Louis Morozny. He's actually involved in Catholic Psych. And he's such a joy. We've actually been trying to get him there for years. So um, he came in and yeah, he just knocked it out of the park for the guys. Gave a great talk. It's online actually. Maybe if you want to, we can link it. Right? Isn't
Yeah.
that thing that people do? They
I
link
should
it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put a link to your page in general so people can
That'd
follow
be
you on
cool. That'd be
YouTube.
great.
Because when you're talking about meet and greet, I remember like when I was going through my shorts feed, I saw, oh look, there's a short from Sam, and it was the American flag cannon launch into the air and it stuck, and I'm like, oh, this is
It was
good.
epic. Yeah, that's a great video.
Yeah, yeah. So if people want to, because there is like the even like the promotion that you had for meet and greet. Is that on your page, or is that a
I
different
think so.
different
Yeah, I
YouTube
think it's
account?
all there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So people can get an idea of what we're talking about here. I'll link that down in the description below, and yeah, that's like I loved watching the promo for the event, and it seems like a really fun time for men. And I love how it kind of started from your brotherhood with like just seeing a desire for something more that wasn't there, and that's a lot of what my brother and I like when I told him on this podcast. I'm like, dude, we're 14 months apart. I think we got a good brotherhood. I'd love to be able to just share that with you in an intentional way, and then like if guys start following this show, great. Like, but ultimately, like I just appreciate our brotherhood and
Yeah.
want to give witness to that in today's world.
Yeah, that's
Can you tell
awesome.
me a little bit about brotherhood in your life and how that shaped and formed you and what that looks like?
It's super important. I mean, for me, time with uh, my friends, my guy friends, is just so valuable. I've got a great group of men in my kind of immediate community. My brother is probably my closest friend. He's 3.5 years older than me, but he's been an incredible role model for me my whole life. I've in many ways followed in his footsteps, and he's led a good path too. He's a very good man, so that's benefited me like immeasurably. And then we've got a handful of friends that are just they're out of this world. They're just everything that we could have asked for. They're just good, honorable men. Um, we all want to just lead each other's families. We want to encourage each other. We don't get as much time together as I wish we could. Like it's just one of those
Yeah,
things. And because now we all have big families, so it's even hard to get everybody together. But it's cherished time. It really is. Um,
that's
it means a
awesome.
ton to
What
me.
is like? Is there any way particularly that like you've seen that change your walk with the Lord, or like, um, yeah, I don't know, because I could think. of several examples in my life where I'm just like I was living like a certain area of faith well, but then it wasn't until a brother came along and was like, hey dude, like you could be doing this a little bit better, or like even not even like a direct challenge so much as that, but as like just like getting beer with him and hearing him like, oh, like you do that with your family and your wife, like I could probably emulate that. Like I could probably like incorporate that into my life. Has that been an experience for you with any experiences come to mind?
Yeah, very similarly, just about everything you're saying. I would say that in general, I grew up Catholic. It never really meant what it should, um, and I came back to the faith, and I would say instrumental in that would be my brother's example. Again, his reversion years and years before mine put it on the map. I don't even know if I would have. Uh, I think God was calling me back, but I was not ready to listen. But then this man that I very much respected, was taking this seriously. And if he's good and he's claiming that this is the source that he's turning to and that he's receiving strength from, then that matters to me. And then so many of my other friends that I'm talking about here, um, it's the faith that is fundamental. That's like kind of the piece of um, the fundamental piece of that friendship is all rooted in the Lord. So it's not to say that I don't have friends who are who are secular or of different faith. It's just that these are the ones who I would that I experienced that brotherhood that we're talking about here with, and they definitely call me to go deeper. I have a friend. I'll just call him out. Maybe I'll share this episode with him. My buddy Paulie is
Okay.
just he's just like the devoted dad. He just like goes over the top in so many ways to serve and to engage with his kids, and it's incredible. Um, I got another friend, Michel, who's uh, working so hard to support his family, and then still at the same time, even though he's so devoted to getting them in a good financial position, that he still is finding time to spend good quality time with his kids. And sometimes I look at him, I'm like, how did you even manage to do all those things with your kids? Because I know how much you work. He's just
Yeah.
prioritizing what matters. It's inspiring.
Yeah.
It's really great. It's inspiring. He's actually a Haitian immigrant, and so I mean his story is just inspiring from every which way. I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud to know him, and to see all he's doing. And he's one of my closest friends. Um, yeah, I got another buddy who's just he's more like intellectual, like super devoted to his family. And so I love having deeper conversations with him because he just knows so much, and he's got such great insight.
Yeah.
And he ties all of that back in practically to the way that he's raising his family. It's inspiring. It's really good. It's really good. Yeah, I wish we had more time. It's things like sitting around a campfire together, where the kids are making s'mores. That's such valuable time to sit and have fellowship, with good like-minded
Yeah.
families.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's like one of the common experiences that when I'm talking with other men, they're experiencing good brotherhood. It's always like, I wish there was more time. I wish there
Yeah.
was more time to like receive from the other person, to be in community with them, and like part of that is like I think just a natural like desire for like where we're oriented
Hmm.
towards, right? We're oriented towards heaven, this eternal communion where like we are going to be spending time with people, in communion with people, and like what's heavenly about it is like we won't get annoyed with it as men. Like we'll be totally satisfied with that. And so like there's like this almost like this beckoning to that reality
Mm.
of the end times, but then also I think there's a grave depravity of masculine friendship in
Yeah.
this world.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so like I think it also speaks to that when we have those moments where like this is good and I want it to continue. It's because like there's this like
Hmm.
emptiness that in our day-to-day lives we might be missing something to that effect. It's and even like hearing you talk about it, like I could think of so many other examples that I could share from my own life of experiencing brotherhood, similar to what you're talking about, like that intellectual friend, that
Hmm.
one friend who's a heroic dad, and the list goes on and on in my mind, and I just like am grateful for that list existing. Like I oftentimes fail to acknowledge and thank the Lord for the brotherhood I've received, because I do know that there is a lot of it lacking in today's world, and so I appreciate you sharing your experience with it, and it's a good testimony to men who are listening that like it's possible. Like there are men out there who want to spend time with each other, and not only want to, but like there's this need. Like if we want to, it's like iron sharpens iron. If we
Hmm.
want to be the husbands and fathers like that God's calling us to be, we need guys in our lives who are going to do it with us. Before we wrap up, I want to get information about how guys can connect with you both on YouTube and then like what you do with mentorship. But is there one thing that you would encourage men listening to this with? Um, yeah, that you feel like you would want to offer men in today's world, like that, like one thing or multiple things.
Yeah, let's see. I would say the first thing is there is that temptation as guys to think that we have to do it alone, and I think that is not of God. God didn't create man to be alone. Literally, He declares right from the beginning, man shouldn't be alone, and so any sense of feeling alone, um, I think, should be addressed actively, intentionally. Address that. If you feel like you're alone, you need to start reaching out. Um, that may even mean that you have to create something. There was a time, a friend of mine at my church, he said, what do you think? We were just having a discussion about the parish. What do you think that the parish could use? Is there a way that we could get men together? And we just established right there. We just had an idea, um, tied the priest in to give an early. None of us had the time to do this, right? So we had to basically steal time from elsewhere, and it's unfortunate we can't prioritize it more. But we decided that at 6 a.m. on Friday mornings we were going to get together, and we do a half hour of adoration and then just fellowship until people have to leave to work. And so we do have that opportunity now, but we had to create it. We had to come up with it.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage men to, if you don't have something, where you're experiencing fellowship, you may have to come up with it and get creative. But it's worth it. It's the best morning of the week.
Yeah.
And I don't like getting up early, but it's the best morning of the week. And so, you may have to put in that extra effort to figure it out. But whatever resistance comes up, like it's worth it to push through, because, you need fellowship. Don't think that you have to do it alone. That's definitely not from God.
Yeah.
So I would say
I
that
think
for sure.
I think it's great encouragement, especially like even right there at the end of like if there's resistance, it's almost like anticipate there's gonna be resistance. There's gonna be, if it's not waking up early, there is gonna be that like sacrifice, that 6 a.m. sacrifice somewhere.
Yep.
Even if it isn't at 6 a.m., it's like, oh, but so and so got this going on later in the night, or
Right.
like there's always gonna be a reason not to do it. So I appreciate the encouragement to like invite men into, like if you want it, like create it. Like there's something there that's good and it's worth the sacrifice. So tell me about where people can connect with you on YouTube and then also with mentorship.
Yeah, you can mostly find me online just with my name, Sam Todzia. So YouTube, Sam Todzia. I have a website that's Red Barn Ministries, because I do a lot of like confirmation retreats and talks in parishes and schools. So redbarnministries.org, you can find me there. I think all the other social media is just with my name. And then you can find me at CatholicPsych as well.
Awesome, great. I'll throw all those links down in the show notes so that guys can get connected with you. Sam, so much. I need to slow down and say the words the right way. Thanks so much for being here on this podcast. It's great to have you. It's just great to be a brother with you.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to connect. I'm really glad we were able to do this. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Hey Brother podcast. Please follow, like, subscribe, share with a brother who might need to hear it. If you're interested in learning more about what I do with mentorship myself, you can head over to CatholicPsych, or you can go to my website, craftitformore.com. All the information's in the show notes below. All right, God bless.